Let's now pivot to talk about wildfires. They have made major news headlines across Canada, especially over the past few years. And now new research says some of the forests affected may never recover. 2017 was the worst year on record in BC's wildfire season. Alberta still recovering from the disastrous wildfires in Fort McMurray. Joining me now to shed more light on this is Merritt, who is an ecologist at the University of Guelph and researches fires right across the country. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Let's talk about the question, why? Why is this happening that forests are not recovering?
Yes, well, it might seem like an unusual time to be talking about wildfires in the middle of our cold snap, but in fact, across the boreal forests today of Canada, dozens, if not more, fires are still burning. They've gone underground from the summer and continue to burn right through the snow and ice. So this is a relevant topic even today. I think it's important to note that fires are really important to our ecosystems, to the boreal forest in general. But what we're starting to see is very strong evidence that with climate change and global warming, we're starting to see major shifts in how fires are burning across many regions of our country. Fires are getting larger, they're burning more intensely.
So let's discuss how worrying that is, that the intensity has increased. Fascinating to hear, firstly, that wildfires are in fact a normal, if you can use that word of our ecological system. But why the worry that they are in fact getting more intense?
Yes, well, this is a disturbance that is part of our natural history. The boreal forest wouldn't be the way it is today without fire. But what we're doing as a result of anthropogenic climate change is we are pushing that disturbance. So these wildfires are burning more intensely. This is happening across many regions of Canada. And the consequences are the kinds of conditions that forests are used to, that they're used to recovering from, are actually being pushed to their limits. And this is having ripple effects. So I think it's really important to remember that global warming is not just climate change, it's not just warming. There's a number of different effects and consequences that these changes in disturbance regimes have. So, for example, our fires are getting more intense. They're burning more and more of the fuels in our forest ecosystems. This is actually removing organic matter from the soils, and that's why forests are actually having trouble recovering. We're seeing not only shifts in the rates that forests are recovering, we're also seeing changes in the types of forests that are coming back. And this has consequences for wildlife. It has consequences for hunting. It has consequences for how humans use the landscape. So this is a great example of some of those ripple out effects that are observed as part of global warming.
Well, let's delve into those a little bit. What impact would this have on both humans and wildlife?
Well, there's two angles that we're really interested in. One, of course, as we've seen over a number of years, fires really affect human settlements, human infrastructure. We just have to think back to the Fort McMurray fires. These are very stressful events for many communities. It's very stressful for northern ways of living. So that's one important angle, and we're very interested in working with fire management agencies to help them understand what kind of situations they're going to be facing under future climate change scenarios. The second angle that's very important to understand for forest fires is how this is going to influence the long-term ecology of the boreal forest. We're starting to see that conifer trees are actually struggling to return to our forests after these very severe fires. We're seeing a proliferation in some regions of Canada of deciduous forest. This is going to mean that there will be some ecological winners. Deer, for example, moose might actually benefit from shifts in post-fire recovery, but this is going to come at the expense of other species like caribou.
So is perhaps just replanting trees not enough of an option to save our forests?
That's certainly an option in some very small regions, but we cannot forget the vastness of the Canadian boreal forest. This is one of our most unique attributes of our country. The boreal forest is the largest tract of contiguous forest on Earth. So just in terms of the vastness of the Canadian ecosystems, we really cannot think about replanting manually as a viable mode of forest regeneration. We really need to be thinking about working within the limits of the fire regimes that we have and that we will have into the future.
Really interesting take on this. Merritt, we thank you so much for sharing your perspective with us on this issue.
Thank you.